Hi again. This is Ed Ridiger, and this is you remember her name? She was in the last episode, Coco Chanel. Say hello, Coco. Hi. Well, she didn't say it, I said it. But Coco and I are ready for another story to tell you another story. How have you been? How's your week been? Weather been nice? Have you had a chance to go outside and play? Well, the weather's been really pretty here. In fact, it is a beautiful, beautiful day outside. The sun is shining, and I think I'm going to get out in the fresh air as soon as I tell you this little story. And like I said, we've been talking about stories. The stories we've been looking at are stories from a book called Genesis, and it's the first book in the Bible. And there are a lot of good stories in Genesis. In fact, today's going to be the last story we'll listen to from Genesis. Then we'll go to another part of the Bible, which also has a whole bunch of really good stories. Anyway, we've been looking at the story of Genesis, and we talked about, if you notice, it's been a lot about God and about people. I mean, God created everything, including people. He put them in a garden. Then people decided that they wanted to make decisions on their own, and they couldn't be in the garden anymore, and so God sent them out. We had a story about the two brothers. They got jealous, and one of them hurt, in fact, killed his brother, which was really, really bad. We had the story, we've been looking at the story of Noah and the ark. Remember how God told Noah to build, what was it? Yeah, a real big boat. And he was going to get all these animals on the boat. And God was going to flood the earth. And God flooded the earth and the boat floated. And when the waters went down, the boat came onto solid ground. And God, remember last week, God said, I don't want to do this anymore. And so he put in the sky a rainbow as a reminder to him and to us that God wasn't going to destroy the world anymore. So those are some of the stories we've already looked at. Now, like I said, this will be the last story. We're going to look at Genesis next week. I'll tell you in a little bit what we'll look at. But this is a story called the Tower of Babel. But before we talk about the story, I've got a couple of questions to ask you. Do you know what it means to be proud? To be proud of something? Something that you've done or something that you've said. Now, sometimes it makes you feel good, right? When you do something that's really nice, might make you feel kind of good inside. Now, pride is all right. I mean, if you draw a pretty picture, it's okay to feel proud of it. It's okay to feel proud of getting good grades in school. That is fine. That's a good thing. But sometimes pride causes us to do things that aren't so good. Now, remember I said, you draw a real good picture, and your mom looks at the picture and says, man, this is the greatest picture I've ever seen. I'm going to put this picture right here on the refrigerator, and so everybody can see it. You feel good, right? Because your mom really likes your picture, puts it on the refrigerator. Now, suppose your little sister comes, and she's drawing her picture. And because she's your little sister, she can't draw quite as well. And you say, oh, that picture isn't very good. Look at mine. Mine is great. No, Mom isn't going to like your picture. Mine is better than yours because I can draw and you can't. Now see, even though being proud of, feeling good about something you've done well, if you're not careful, sometimes that causes you to treat other people not in a way that's not very nice. It causes you to treat your friends, kind of put them down, kind of treat them badly. So that's when pride gets us into trouble. When we think we know it all, that we are just great, nobody better than us. They used to say that we're all that in a bag of chips. We are special. Can kind of get us into trouble. And the story we're going to look at today, like I said, is the Tower of Babel. And that's the story of people who started feeling that way towards God, and it kind of got him into trouble. Okay, now remember, after the flood, flood everywhere. water everywhere. Dries up, right? No, the animals come out of the ark. Noah and his family come out of the ark. And God says, I ain't going to do this anymore. And so Noah and his family start planting crops and raising animals, and they're kind of settling in, and they have kids, and the kids have kids, and the kids and kids, yada yada yada. Until you got a whole bunch of people living, and all those people, because they all came, remember, from Noah, they all spoke the same language. And I'm going to ask you to use your imagination, because I want you to imagine that this is a person. Okay? Now, we know this is really more like a dog, right? But we're going to use our imagination. We're going to pretend that this is a person. So this is a person. This is somebody who is living. And this is another person. They look alike, right? They look alike. They act alike. They sound alike. They both speak the same language. And so they're talking. And then there are other people. Boom. Other person looks the same. Other person looks the same. Other person looks the same. Everybody's looking the same, right? And they're talking the same language. They get together and they think they are real special. They think they're just the greatest thing around. We used to say the greatest thing since sliced bread. These guys think they are the ones. And they're all getting together and they're doing things. And they're pretty smart. When they get together, they're pretty smart. And one of these guys there says, we're pretty smart. We're a pretty smart bunch. In fact, I think we're as smart as God. Whoa. We are as smart as God. If we get together, if we work together, we can do anything. God thinks he's special. We can do anything if we work together. And the other guys say, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And the other one, oh, yeah, I think that's great. And they all kind of agree that they are special. They don't, and in fact, they are so special, they don't even need God. Because if they need something, they could do it themselves. See what I mean by proud? It was fine when they looked at the crops and said, that's pretty good. I did a good job planting those crops. Or when they made some pottery and said, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good jar. Or when they were building houses and stuff, that's a pretty good house. But now this pride has made them, and the word for it is arrogant, has made them arrogant. They think they are smarter than anybody else, smarter than God, right? All right, and they want to show that they're smarter than God. This guy says to his friends, let's show that we are smarter than God, or at least on his level. Now, we're down here, God's way up there. You know what we can do? How could we reach up to God? If we're on earth and God's way up in the sky, how might we reach up to God? Well, one guy said, well, we could dig, he's upside down. We could dig a hole. And this guy said, that's stupid. God, if God's up there and we're down here, digging a hole is pretty bad. And somebody else comes up and says, well, we can build a great big house. And he says, why, that's not going to help. How is that going to get us closer to God, building a house here? And he says, well, that's probably true. And this other fellow says, you know what we can do? Why don't we build a tower? We'll build it really high, and if we build it high enough, it'll reach up to heaven. We'll be right up with God. And when we're right up with God, we can talk to him like he's one of us. And this guy says, man alive, you have nailed it. We are going to build ourselves a great big tower. And when we build this great big tower, we're going to be just like God. And so people start working. He says, let's get to work. And so they're going to work on building a tower. Now, if you're going to build a tower that's really, really high, way in the sky, what are some of the things you're going to use to build it? What's some of the stuff you might use? Well, you might use wood, right? You could use some wood. You might use bricks, right? Might use steel. Well, they start getting the stuff that they need, and they start building a tower. And have you ever built a tower with like Legos or with blocks? Sometimes you can build one that's pretty high, okay? And that's what they do. And I'm going to show you what the tower does. They start building a tower. Boom, a tower. And they start building a tower that's even higher. Boom, a tower. I can't even see you now. They are building a tower, and they think if they build a tower high enough, they can reach up to God. Well, I'll tell you something, and they feel pretty good about it. They feel pretty smart. They are, what's the word? Proud. They are really proud at this great big tower they're building. Well, God's up there in heaven. He's looking down on them, and he says, what are those people doing? And one of his angels says, I think they're building a tower. And God said, why are they building that tower? And the angel says, I'm not sure. I heard, though, they think if they build it high enough, they're going to be able to reach up to you. And God says, that's just plain silly. Because it's not a matter of reaching up to us. It's not a matter of reaching up to us. You know, I love these little guys down there. You know, they don't have to be looking me eye to eye. You know, I take care of them. And the angel said, well, I know that's what they're doing. They're building this great big tower. You know, because they think they are all that. All that in a bag of chips. And God says, well, you know, they're pretty proud. Now I decided that I'm not gonna wipe them out anymore. Not gonna send another flood, because I see that rainbow over there. So I'm not gonna do that. Don't want to do it anyway. I think that was a mistake. But you know, if they're this proud, they're never gonna learn. And to live in this world, you got to learn. I mean, if you think you know it all, you don't have to listen to people, and you don't have to learn. And man, I don't want my children, you know, acting like that. I don't want them ignorant. I don't want them running around thinking they know everything. So we got to do something about their pride. And the word that is the opposite of pride is humble. These people got to be more humble. That's what God says. And he says to one of his angels, he says, you know what? I think it's this tower that's causing the problem. So, and the fact, but you know, it's more than the tower. It's more than the tower. The only reason they're able to build the tower is that they're all speaking the same language, right? They're all working together. And that's what's giving them pride. So instead of me knocking down the tower, now, have you ever knocked down a pile of blocks? It's kind of messy. Makes you mad. If it's your tower you're building, somebody else knocks it down, makes you mad. I'm not going to, instead of knocking down the tower, I'm not going to do that. This is what God's saying. I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I am going to cause all these little people to be a little bit confused. So they won't be able to talk to one another. And if they can't talk to one another because they don't understand one another, like speaking in different languages, then they're not going to be able to work together to build this tower. And so that's what God ends up doing. Instead of hurting them, because remember, he loves them, and instead of even knocking down the thing they built, instead what he does is he causes them to speak in different languages. And do you know what language is? Like English. I'm speaking to you right now. That's a language. And that's English. You know some other languages, or the names for some other languages? You may even know some people that speak them. You know, a lot of people speak Spanish. I took French in high school. I got some friends that speak Greek. You know, so there are a lot of different languages in the world. And that's what God did. So this guy, he said, from now on, you're going to speak English. And this guy, from now on, you're going to speak French. And this guy, you're going to speak Spanish. And this guy, you're going to speak Greek. And this guy, you're going to speak Chinese. And this guy, you're going to speak Japanese. And you see, they're speaking all kinds of languages. And although they're still people, and God still loves them all, they can't talk to one another. Because when this guy who speaks English tells this guy who speaks Chinese, hey, we need some more bricks to build this tower, the one that speaks Chinese says, huh? Says, I need more bricks for the tower. Huh? I need more bricks. Huh? See, they don't understand one another. And he says it in Chinese, and this guy says, huh? They don't understand one another. So they're not able to work together to build the tower. And what God does is he gives them different languages and he spreads them out all over the world. And right now, that's why people that live in one part of the world speak one language. People who live in another part of the world speaks another language. And so even though he didn't mess with the tower, he did confuse their languages. And that's the story of Tower as a way to teach them humility. And so even when you feel pride and the pride causes you to look down on other people and think that you are the very best and nobody can be equal to you, sometimes you're taught a lesson that humbles you up a little bit. And that's what happened to people around the Tower of Babel. And that's the story for today. Now, next week, and boy, oh boy, am I excited about this. We're going to start some stories about a guy named Jesus. Now, I bet you know who Jesus is. We're going to start some stories about his life and some of the things he did, and maybe even some of the stories he taught. So next week, I want you to tune in to another episode so you can start hearing some stories about Jesus. And I want you to remember, no matter where you go or what you do, God loves who? God loves